Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June the 25th, and it is episode number 108 here on Inside the Game, the only podcast on the National Soccer Network. And I'm Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler, and it's day number 2 of me being back here on the show. Couldn't be happier to be back here again and talking soccer and talking inside the game. Last night, Nathan, busy night for us. We had a busy Tuesday night. Typically, our Mondays and Tuesdays and our Thursdays are not as busy days. I think we had 8 or 9 broadcasts scheduled for last night, and we had some pretty good games. We had a USASA Amateur Cup semifinal match between the Michigan Rangers and Michigan Stars last night. We'll talk about that this morning. You had a USLW match on the west side of the state. That was Midwest United and Kalamazoo FC. That game took place last night. And a bunch of other games across the country and WPSL and Leaf for Club action as well. I know we didn't get into the numbers. I don't think you guys got the numbers on Monday, but we did talk a little bit about it, I think, yesterday. We did 89 broadcasts last week. The week before that, we did 97. So, I mentioned like this is the last busy week for us. Everything after this is like playoffs. And just kind of like, I wouldn't say it's like the crumbs. It's like what's left over of the season, right? And
Right.
maybe it doesn't come out the right way, but it's the good crumbs, by the way. It's like it's
Good
like when you get
crumbs.
to the bottom.
Good enough crumbs to go to the playoffs. Yeah.
Everybody knows what the good crumbs are too. I think we talk about good crumbs. There's some good crumbs out there, right?
There's a
You
lot of
get
good
you get to
crumbs,
the
yeah.
bottom of the chip bag. That's not good crumbs. I mean, that's not good, right?
Just a handful of salt at that point.
Or it's like it's just like you can't even grab them because they're so whatever. 'Cause they're
Yeah.
just you just can't even grab it.
Just struggling.
Like Dubai chocolate crumbs. Like, dude,
But those are crumbs. Those are intentional crumbs. You get those crumbs with the purpose. You know what I mean? Those aren't accidental crumbs.
It's
You know what are
actually a good idea that we should actually ask questions like, what is the good crumb? Like, what are good crumbs? Like, because to be fair, you go eat a sub, right? You eat a sub. Subway, it doesn't matter what your sub is, but there's always like when you're eating that sandwich, things are falling off of it right onto the parchment paper that they use or whatever it is. It's falling onto that thing, and it's got the mix of the sauce on it, whatever you had, mix it all the toppings in there. I used to take my potato chips and just kind of dip in there, right? Just dip in there, grab that and hey, you get you get a chili cheese dog. There's always a little bit leftover chili cheese on the plate, right? Grab your fries, whatever.
Yep.
But what are that? I think it's a great question. What are the good crumbs? And
Are you a frosted wheats kind of guy? Mini wheats?
dude, yes, those are
Okay.
good, man. Though
Good.
again, I don't eat them
I'm a
anymore,
fan.
but
That's fair. That's fair. But I mean, you still you know what it tastes like. Like you can reminisce on maybe when you did have a bowl or two, and when you get down towards the end, and maybe you got half a bowl left, but then you have that pile of sugar and whatever the heck else is at the bottom of it. And so essentially, when you pour it, you're just eating a whole bowl of wheat mixed with sugar. And it's great, man. It's great. There is nothing natural about it. It's not good for you at all. It's just literally just sugar straight to the head. But that would be an example of good crumbs. Also, Ritz crackers. Like there's a lot of different recipes where you just crush them up and then you use that in whatever you're doing. Also, I think you can use it to make like pie crust. I'm pretty sure is a thing with the Ritz crackers. I think that's a thing as well. So that's really good because you got a good salt ratio in those. So you can actually use those in cooking and like different things to create different stuff. So I think those are examples of good crumbs.
yeah.
Good
See,
crumbs.
and that's
Useful crumbs.
and that's the example of the playoffs that we're talking about, right? And so it's like
There's the Ritz crackers, the smashed Ritz crackers of the soccer space.
the the bougie. The bougie, right? Crumbs, right? That's when I say Dubai chocolate, like I did. That's a bougie crumb. I mean, can you imagine spending $20 for a chocolate bar? I did that last week, by the way. That was dumb.
No, absolutely not.
But I did
Well,
spend
you
$20.
get fancy water too. You got fancy water. You got fancy pens. I've never seen a person take more pride in their pens before than one Jonathan Turner. But it's not a bad thing.
Uh,
I mean, if it flows, it flows.
Well, here,
This
this is.
show me off one of your pens again.
I think I will. Yeah, this one here. This is. Yeah, see, like nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. See.
All right.
Yep.
Flows
Yep,
well across the page. All that stuff.
Oh, I know, right? Don't forget this one.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, and as guys working in, as like broadcasters and stuff, man, you need good pens. Like this one, I snagged from the dentist office.
Oh.
It's one of the better ones that I've had. It flies. It's called the Title pen, so it's not quite G2 level. But then again, I think G2s can be a little bit too much. I think sometimes they leave a little bit of a smear. But this one's pretty good. Flies across the page. I'll be honest. I don't know how we went from crumbs to pens, but I like this. But yeah, you just gotta get one that flows. You gotta get one that moves easy. Because once you do that, everything else comes easier in the entire process. So yeah, the good pen is important. Good crumbs are important too. We're having the serious conversations today. All right.
We are off the stuff. We should call this show going off the deep end here on Monday through Friday. But no,
you and I are going off the deep end anyways. So have some fun with it.
But we yesterday the question I asked is as we were kind of leading out of the show are the U.S. men's national team, are they meeting the expectations of what we thought for the Gold Cup? Now, granted, if you base it on results alone and progress, then, yeah, I mean, the goal is to win this thing. The goal is not to not win it, right? And they're in the knockout round, right? That's goal one, right? And when you look at these tournaments for what they are, there are some teams that say, hey, we just want to be competitive in a tournament like this because they have no fighting chance whatsoever, right? There are teams that say, hey, we want to win the whole thing. That's our goal is to win the whole thing. And so getting on the knockout round, out of the group stage and in the knockout rounds is not like a surprise. It is exactly what they expected to have happen. U.S. men's national team got out of the group stage. They did so pretty decisively, I would say. I mean, if you look at their what they did, 3 games played, 3 wins. They scored 8 goals and allowed 1. Okay. Now, Saudi Arabia, they played 3 games. They were 1-1-1. All right. And so they had 4 points. Trinidad and Tobago had 2 points. They had 2 draws. And Haiti, well, they had 1 point. So, if you look at what they did, very decisive. I mean, yeah, they might have started off slow in some situations, but ultimately they won every game. And is that a good sign for the United States? Is it a good thing that they were able to go in and beat a team in Saudi Arabia and Trinidad and Tobago and Haiti? What does that look like? My question is, if you start sticking other opponents in, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
And do they have their signature moment? I got that question yesterday on social media, and I thought that was really interesting to talk about because even in past conversations about the USMNT, we mentioned Matt Freese looked really good. The only goal that he gave up in that tournament, at least the one to Haiti at the end there, was a mistake on his end. It was just a mistake of he was trying to play it out of the back. He really should have just jumped on top of it and just allowed, everybody to reset and then rolled it out and then played it that way. But it was just a mental mistake on his end. And that's all that was. That is the only goal that they gave up in that entire tournament was a mistake on the part of Matt Freese. And that was after, a couple of shutouts, beating Trinidad and Tobago 5-0, which, by the way, I think when people look at that win, they go, okay, oh, well, but I think we forget, like, Trinidad was very close on the last day of round robin play of being a team that advanced on out of that stage. If they ended up winning their game, like they were right there. So, the U.S. beats them 5-0. Now they're almost in a position to advance out of the group. Like, that should tell you something about the way that team responded, especially after the Switzerland game. Like, it was no longer, especially after they had got blanked 4-0 by that Swiss team. It was like, okay, guys, you got to show us something. You have to show us something. And so, to all that, Are those signature wins? Is beating Saudi Arabia 1-0 a signature win? No. Is beating Trinidad and Tobago 5-0 a signature win? No. Is beating Haiti 2-1? No. None of those are signature wins. But I'll say this because I do think it's interesting to mention, and I actually rewatched all the games yesterday while I was working on social media stuff and whatnot. But I look back at the Saudi Arabia game specifically because I think that was obviously the hardest matchup of all three of them. And Taylor Twellman said, and I believe he was on the broadcast team. If not, maybe it was Landon. I can't remember who it was, but it was live during the broadcast. It was in the second half. It was still 0-0. Chris Richards hadn't scored his goal quite yet. By the way, Sebastian Berhalter looked really good. I thought he looked really solid. He was actually the one that gave Chris Richards the assist off that set piece. But there was a conversation around that game where I believe it was Twellman, and again, don't quote me on this, but he goes, international games are different because international games a lot of times feel like street fights because of the physicality in which the game is played, because of the speed and the pace in which the game is played, right? And not only that, but you're playing in the United States. And for a team like Saudi Arabia and for a team like Haiti, like they want to beat you bad. I mean, that's you want an opportunity to beat the U.S. And if you get the chance to beat them in the U.S., you're going to do everything that you can. And they're bringing their best. Right. And so it was up to whether you want to call them the B team, whether you want to call them the C team, it was up to them to respond physically. Like, do you match the energy of what a street fight looks like in international play? Because you guys are all fighting for a position. And I remember you months and months and months ago, we were talking about this team really before the Nations League started, where you're like, would there be any benefit to just throwing out a group of players who are not a sure thing, who are just going to do everything they can to try and fight tooth and nail to get that spot? Because those are your culture and your foundation setters. Those are the ones that are going to set everything, the base, right? You can't build a house unless you have a foundation, right? You can't build anything unless you have a foundation. Those are your foundation players. And in the moment, I was like, yeah, I mean, they might get smacked around. They might this, that, or the other thing. But if we throw them out there, at least we're going to know who we have and who we can trust in building this thing going forward. Well, in a lot of ways, they've done that. And they've won because of it. They've won because of it. And they've put their best foot forward. Now, to answer the question you put at the bottom, I don't know if they're going to win it. But what I loved about it, and I don't know if it was Pochettino getting through to this team. I don't know if it was just the media hounding them the way that they did. And again, I include us in that conversation because obviously we're critical, right? But it's almost like a tough parent. Like they're not going to get on you if they don't care. Like they get on you because they care. They get on you because they want to see you succeed. And that's why we talk about this team all the time, because again, what's tangible, what's realistic sitting in my chair as an American? It's the United States men's national team. Like I can't really relate to Miami and the MLS winning games in the FIFA Club World Cup. Like that's cool, like good for them, but we know what the storyline is there. It's messy. So we want to talk about the team with the players that come from here that are going to be representing us going into the 2026 World Cup. Because even now, you look at the crowd and people are still dressed up like Alexi Lalas in 94. Like you're going to see Alexi Lalas anywhere you go because, again, the impact that the World Cup in 94 had, just the image of him with the shaggy hair and the red all over the place and the old soccer jerseys, man. It reminds me a lot of like old football equipment. Like it's not the most flattering look in the world, but there was a sense of pride that came with that 94 team. So that's why when we continue to talk about this team and this group all the time, it's because we want to see them make this 26 World Cup a meaningful one. Does that mean they have to win it? No, but they have to do what they're showing right now in the Gold Cup, which is fight, which is grit, which is getting on top of you. And, were there times in that game, especially against Haiti, where the buildup was slow, it was uneventful, it was, maybe a little predictable? Yeah, but I'm of the mindset that I think Mauricio Pochettino knows enough about the X's and O's of the game. He's coached some of the best players in the world, right? He knows what it takes to win. You just have to get a group of guys that are willing to actually go out and fight hard enough to a level to where it makes it realistic that whatever he's putting in place is going to end up working out. And to see them get up in the chest of Saudi Arabia and some pushing and shoving, and even Mauricio Pochettino getting involved in that. I mean, he got in the middle of the scuffle, right? To see that fight, to see how badly they battled against Haiti and how much they battled it out in that. And then just the shock and awe against Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, a 5-0 win. I can't remember the last time that we've beaten the brakes off a team on the international scale quite like that. So to answer that, that's a very roundabout way of saying I don't know if they're going to win it, but I love the dynamic of, and I know it's frustrating because it almost feels like glorified tryouts ahead of the 2026 World Cup. But my goodness gracious, if you're going to show me, Diego Luna, Malik Tillman, and Chris Richards, and all of these guys fighting and scrapping in order to not only win, but prove what their worth is to this team and to this nation side, because again, it's never a given that you're going to get that call. Like, and I think some of our top players who ended up opting out of it, like Pulisic knows he's going to get a call, but everybody else, there's really no sure things here. And in my personal opinion, with where this team is and where our expectations are for this team, there really shouldn't be a given as opposed to it when it comes to who the 11 is. And I don't know. I think maybe Mauricio Pochettino deserves a little bit of leeway with this. I'll get into that in a little bit. But to answer the big question that you just put up, I don't think they'll win the Gold Cup because I do think there are some very good teams that are in there. But I expect them at least to get to the semis. They should be able to beat Costa Rica. By the way, shout out Mexico for not even showing up. You guys talked a lot of game after the Nations League about the old USA, but you guys couldn't even beat Costa Rica to show up to play us. So congratulations.
That's good. I mean, so based on what's left over, you've got United States taking on Costa Rica here on the 29th, right? Canada is taking on Guatemala. And then Mexico is taking on Saudi Arabia on the 28th, Panama, and Honduras. So, those are the 8 teams still left in this, right? So U.S., Costa Rica, Canada, Guatemala, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Panama, and Honduras. So a lot still left. We obviously, the United States could still see Mexico as well as Canada or Panama. Obviously, arguably looking at the rest of these teams, the top teams still in this thing, United States, Canada, Mexico. I'd put them in, and you can put them in whatever order you want. I would say just based on how Canada has played, that I would argue that they're probably the team to beat, right? And so when you win the Nations Cup, when you have beaten the United States in the last time you played them, it's especially with the roster that the U.S. men's team has, I would argue that Canada is right there. Probably, I would actually put the U.S. as third, right now in what they're capable of as far as their roster. Now, again, you talked about this, the dogfight, right? Diego Luna is going to bring a dogfight every time he plays on the field, right? That's how he is. He's going to white knuckle it. He's going to bare knuckle it. He's going to go out there. He's going to fight hard. He's going to get his face smashed in and still play, right? But you look at the rest of this roster and say, who's going to do that? Now, Freese, who's a new goalkeeper to the U.S. men's national team who stepped in for Matt Turner, he's had a pretty good showing as well, but he's also shown his moments where he can make a mistake, right? And so we're seeing in real time some of the development of players who are maybe new to the team, and so that there's a process with that. But I think first and foremost, of course, the U.S. men's national team could absolutely win this tournament. They've done it many times before, right? So we know that they can win it. So it's not even a question. The question we should be asking ourselves is, if we look at a team like Argentina, a team like Brazil, a team like Portugal, Spain, we look at England, if they're playing in this tournament, right? Everyone would say, if just take one of those teams and put them in this tournament, we would automatically say that they were the number one favorite. The teams I just listed.
Mm-hmm.
No questions asked. At the start of this tournament, no one was like, well, Saudi Arabia, they're going to win this thing. Right? It's not Maybe unless you lived in Saudi Arabia. But aside from that, the community as a whole wasn't like they're going to win this thing. Now, who's in the conversation? It's Mexico, it's Canada, it's the United States. There's 3 teams in this tournament that you would say they all 3 have a fighting chance. Costa Rica maybe an outside chance, Panama maybe an outside chance, but again, those are some outside chances. And you maybe even argue that even Panama could maybe not, maybe they're the top 4. My question is this: as we get closer and closer to the World Cup here in less than a year, because we're right there. I mean, the World Cup is slated to start, I believe, like the first week of June next year, right? We're a year away, and we're hosting this thing. And being in the conversation to win something, is that enough? Is it enough? And as a fan of the game, what are your expectations for next year? We need to start having that conversation now, because for me, as someone who's been doing this for, being a part of soccer and watching U.S. men's national team soccer for 43 years of my life, I'll be 44 next year. Oh my goodness. It's like, what should be the expectations? I mean, if we're going into a World Cup in 2026 with, let's just get out of the group stage, that's fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? That's terrible. That's our we didn't have to go through the qualifying of this thing. The grueling process of qualifying for a World Cup like every other team in the world has to do right now. Right? So, which, to be fair, I actually think is more of a disservice than it is, because you're fighting to get there. And to fight to get there, that's how this thing is even created in the first place. Is that the fight to get there is actually more important than actually being there. Because it's like, and does that mean you take it for granted? I absolutely do think you take it for granted at that point. You're already there. We're already there. Mm-hmm. But right now, they'd be playing in qualifying rounds. They'd be trying to qualify for this thing right now if they weren't hosting it. And would they even make it? I would argue that they wouldn't even make it. The argument right now is that if they took away, if you're the host nation, and to be fair, I would challenge FIFA to do this. Stop giving the host nation a free pass. Because I would the U.S. men's national team even be there? How shitty would that be, though? Could you imagine how shitty that would be? Is that here we are, we're hosting this thing, right, and we don't make it because we didn't qualify? Mm-hmm. I mean, that talk about what a news story that would be.
Right.
I look at this and go, like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. And I was just talking about this with another someone in the media a couple days ago. We were talking about this, and it's like we are the MLS, and me and you talked about this yesterday. It's like we have this mentality, right? All of our players who are coming up in the soccer environment today have had to pay to be there. Now, they may not personally had to pay. Their parents had to pay. In most cases, had to pay a significant amount of money to get there. Now, it's not unique. In hockey, I mean, the amount of money being spent in hockey, it's insanity. Yep. I don't know if hockey is, I think from a pure, I think hockey might be number one as far as cost. Lacrosse is up there. Mm-hmm. I think 2, which is kind of crazy because I feel like you don't wear as much stuff in lacrosse, but I think lacrosse is one of the more expensive sports too. But hockey, how is it that in hockey it doesn't translate the same way it does in soccer? What I mean by that is you walk in any rink in America, I don't think you question a kid's work ethic. You know what I mean? Do you? I don't know. I mean, you watch the NHL and you watch these. I mean, you watch hockey. I mean, but you can see a lack of work ethic in soccer. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can see it. I mean, you can see a player who's not willing to put it all on the line.
Right.
I mean, hockey is a dangerous sport, so maybe that has more to do. I mean, I mean, soccer is dangerous, but you cannot say that hockey and soccer are the same in the same level of dangerous. You know, they're
Right.
just not. I mean, there's some dangerous factors of soccer for sure, but you got a
Mm-hmm.
puck coming at you. So maybe that's part of it. I guess maybe the environment's too is not soft, but maybe it's not hard enough. But
Right.
I think it's important to compare that because in Europe, every kid knows what what they're trying to do. Every
Mm-hmm.
kid wants to play on England, and they want to play for Man City. It's been around for 120 years, and
Mm-hmm.
they want that. And they'll do everything they can. Now, not every kid's going to do that, right? Not every kid, not every young adult is going to put everything they have and focus and hyper focus and put all the work in. There'll be kids that they aren't built for that, and that's
Right.
perfectly fine. But I feel like we don't on the U.S. men's national team specifically. We just don't have 30 players that want it more than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that herein lies the problem is having scouts and finding the right players. This isn't about finding the best player. We talked about that. This is about finding the right player. Finding the right player. And have we done that? Could we win a World Cup with 11 Diego Lunas?
No. Probably not.
No. But if you take away the skill for a second, and just
Oh, the
11,
mentality.
11 Diego Lunas.
Oh, from a mentality standpoint, yes, I'll take 11 of him any way you cut it.
You know, could we win a World Cup with 11 Christian Pulisics?
Yeah, from a mentality standpoint, probably not. Probably
You know,
not. Because
so
he doesn't embrace that pressure
no,
of
he
being
doesn't, and
Captain America.
and that's why we asked this question. What is the? And to be fair, it's almost like someone should go take a Bobby Bean. Is it Bobby Bean? Was it or Bill? Was it Billy Bean? Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, go look at the numbers. Maybe someone just needs to go look and like start counting the numbers of okay, we need a player that can give us 80 minutes, and figure out what the formula is and go find those players because like that, you know, it's not working. And I'll sit here today and tell you that if our goal as a nation is to just to get out of the group stage next year, man,
Yeah.
this is what a
Well, and that's what highlights the importance of the Gold Cup, right? It's not because you don't have to qualify, and we had those talks that this team doesn't have to qualify. And I remember when you and me after a couple of games on a weekend, sitting down to just eat dinner once, and I forget who we were watching. I believe it was Panama and somebody else, but we were talking about this, and I'm like, World Cup qualifying is going on right now. I'm like, where does the U.S. like, what do they have to do? And then we had that talk. Well, no, it's here. Like they don't have to qualify, So that gives an opportunity to guys to not have to show up and play, whether it be friendlies, whether it be Gold Cup. I think to circle back on your point about hockey, I think it helps to have your neighbor to the north kind of be the standard in terms of what hockey looks like. I also think it helps to have the biggest league in the world in your country and the country to the north of you, because I think that keeps players not only in-house, but it keeps them here in the United States. A lot of them play around each other. Obviously, we know how big the NCAA is in terms of a feeder to the NHL. But you're right. I mean, much like in soccer, they have to deal with clubs. They have to deal with all these different teams and all these different areas. And in these, there's a lot of kids that if you're good enough in the hockey space, you don't go to college. It's much like soccer. It's much like if you're good enough, you don't really go to college. You don't really go to NCAA. Now, with that being said, you have your powerhouse programs and your Minnesotas and your Notre Dames and your Michigans. You're going to find a lot of kids that are from there, but it is kind of to the same point, it is a lot like that. But the issue is here is that I think there's a culture in American hockey that these guys, that they grew up watching Miracle on Ice. They grew up being surrounded by, watching those teams, those Olympic teams, and their battles against Canada and how big that rivalry is. everything like that. So it's not, I think sometimes we do get fixated on the money aspect a little bit as to why we don't produce at the highest level, but I don't necessarily think it's that. I just think for one reason or another, like the mentality side of it, again, even from a media perspective, like there's more media surrounding hockey than there is surrounding soccer. And so it's just, again, you don't have to grow up with that pressure of the media on your shoulders here in the United States. Everybody wants to leave. That's the issue. Everybody wants to leave. In hockey, they don't want to leave. There's again, the NHL's here. All the top leagues, all the top things are all here. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Same with all the other sports.
Well, we talked about it yesterday. You only go there because you have no choice,
right?
And or again, not have no choice, but
right.
You've been offered something that you're not going to get here, and so
to that point, the Gold Cup is where you have to prove to us as an American fan base beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are ready to go out and compete at the World Cup. Now, again, if getting out of the group stage at the World Cup is our top, that is a little discouraging, but this Gold Cup, I think people miss out on this part a lot because there are actually a lot of storylines here. Number one, like Costa Rica is not a pushover, right? They're going to be a fight. But even if you get further, like if you face Canada, okay, now you're facing off against Jesse Marsch. Jesse Marsch was in that running to be the head coach for the United States men's national team, didn't end up getting it. Not only that, before we started this Gold Cup, he was quoted as saying, "I will never coach the United States men's national team." He goes, "I want nothing to do with those guys. I'm not addressing those guys. I have no interest in being with that team." Now, I said this a little bit earlier on a few episodes ago. I think it's just from a place of bitterness. I don't think he actually means that. I think he's a little pissed off that he didn't get the job, and rightfully so. And if you played for the nation 2 times and they felt the need to pass over you to go get the brilliant soccer mind that is Pochettino, I'd be mad too. But even from Canada's perspective, that's why they don't have people that are opting out of this thing, because they realize the impact that winning and continuing to win on a consistent basis can do for this group. And they have everybody all in, right? So if you get to that point, okay, it's bad enough to lose to Canada once in the Nations League. You're going to have to show us that we made the right choice, right? Because Jesse Marsch is right there. And we've mentioned him multiple times on the show, and people have gotten on our case like, you guys are idiots to ever suggest that you get Jesse Marsch over, the Mauricio Pochettino. Okay, well, here we go. Here's his opportunity if he gets past Costa Rica. If you get to play Mexico, the focus on American soccer in terms of the trolling and the picking on us as to where we are right now, when we talk about Canada v. U.S. in hockey, that's Canada v. Mexico in soccer, right? Those guys have been on our case, and now that Pulisic isn't there, now that Weston McKennie isn't there, now that a lot of those normal fixtures aren't there, they're going to see that as an opportunity we can really run it up on these dudes. And why not? That's our chance. So you have Mexico, you have Canada, obviously you have Costa Rica, who you have a winning record over all time, but it's only 19-17-6. Like, that's not a dominant record against a place like Costa Rica. So they don't have to qualify. You're right. And I guess it's reassuring to a way to know that we're going to be in it either way. But this is the tournament where you prove it. Prove it. Do you have the people to be able to put together a competitive roster in 2026? I do find it problematic that, again, he won't know who his best 11 is, even at the end of this. But, I think part of that also goes back to the fact that, he isn't American. I don't know. I feel like there would be some level of discomfort if let's say that you got hired as the head coach of, Team Germany, and you went over there, and now there are German players who don't want to play, and now you have to speak up and be like, hey, play for your country. Well, you're not from here, dude. So maybe there's a little bit of that. I'm not exactly sure. But that's the problem, and I think everybody continues to point back to that too, JT. I can't say conclusively that we don't have the individual talent to be able to compete with the best teams in the world. Are we at the level of a Germany, a Portugal, a France, a Spain, and Argentina? Probably not. But hey, like, we are sending players overseas on a routine basis now. we are producing a level of player that is competitive enough, skilled enough, wise enough, has the background to be able to compete in some of the best leagues in Europe. So because of this, I think on an individual basis, we are talented enough. The issue has never been that with the United States men's national team. The issue has been, how do they create a team environment that is conducive to winning? And that's tough to do when you can never really rely on someone like, Giovanni Reyna. It's tough when the best player that you've produced in your country. And I know that there was this beef between Landon Donovan and Christian Pulisic, but like, if you want me to tell you who I think is more individually talented, it's probably Christian Pulisic. But he doesn't embrace that pressure of being Captain America. We crowned him Captain America. And I just, for some reason, I don't feel like he's willing to embrace that. So you have a lot of these tricky personalities, and that's why I love seeing it. Now, win or lose, I just love seeing the young guys fight for a spot. But that is the problem here, is that, kind of like, I mean, heck, I mean, look at any other team in one of the big American sports, I got a sarcastic comment on Twitter there, TikTok the other day, that said, "You're wrong. Focus on the NBA." Okay, all right. Well, I'll give you an NBA comparative. It's like the Knicks. You know what I mean? They call New York the Mecca. They get some of the best players in the NBA year after year, but they can't put together a good enough team to get it done, right? Like culturally, like foundationally, coaching, all those other things, all the people that they've cycled through in terms of coaching that team, playing on that team, all the legends they've had, they haven't been able to get the right group to go win a championship. I mean, look at Oklahoma City. Are they the most individually talented team in the world? Yeah, they have the MVP. They have SGA. He's great. But I mean, heck, like a lot of them can't even drink legally. I don't know if you saw the picture or the video of the locker room after their championship. Like there's enough Michelob Ultras or whatever there to to throw an entire party for the entire NSN crew. Like that there was a lot, but a lot of them aren't even old enough to drink. But the way that roster is constructed, number one, and number two, the hunger from a young group trying to prove something for an organization who's been there multiple times but has never won one, is a powerful thing. And so that's what I hope that Pochettino is finding in the Gold Cup. Would it be great to win it? Yeah. Do you have an opportunity to go beat Canada even after all of that ish they were talking for all that while, and maybe beat Mexico? Yeah, there are storylines surrounding this. But can you find a young core that not only enjoys playing together, but can continue to mesh and grow that foundational culture? And I know culture is not a tangible thing, and that makes people anxious because you can't quantify culture. Like I can't give you a culture stat, right? But you know it when you see it, and you feel it when you see it. And that's the part about this Gold Cup. You're not qualifying, but you need to be able to establish that part to give us some sort of feeling like we know who we're getting. Because I even said that on a previous episode. Like it used to be, we knew. We knew. What's up, Michael? First comment of the day, 40 minutes in. All right, we'll take it.
Boom.
Mike. But that is because we used to know, Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, Tim Howard, we knew the group we were getting. Now there were people that changed. There was a changing of the guards in certain positions. Like it was never always the same. But you could say that about other sports too. But there was an identity. There was a purpose. And that's why I love whenever I talk on this podcast, like I just feel like I'm not recycling exactly what those guys say on their shows, but I am taking it as inspiration because we knew when they were playing, we knew who we were getting. We knew who we were getting. And they all were very invested and bought in. And you even heard, like Tim Howard, I remember he was like kind of reminiscing on that year that they beat Portugal. I think it was 2014. Still mind blowing that we haven't lost a game to them in international play, but who knows? But he was talking about that team specifically and how, after a bad game or after a bad match or a bad stretch, the first thing that would happen is they would get into each other. You have to be better. You have to step this aspect of your game up. We have to do this better collectively. There was a sense of accountability in that locker room. And I don't know what those conversations look like. If there's ever a place, sometimes you wish you could just be a fly on the wall. I wish I could be a fly on the wall in that clubhouse. I really do. Because you see the interviews, you see the media, they talk the talk, they're all media trained. But if those conversations are starting to move that direction, less in the, I'm just here for me, I'm here for my cap, I'm here for an opportunity, and more on the side of we need to be better. You need to be better. If Pochettino is somehow able to establish that, then I think we're doing the right thing. But that was always the question, right? Can he command a room of American-born players? I think he's getting better at it. The only scary thing is obviously just how little time he has before the rubber really meets the road when it comes to the World Cup.
Yeah. I know there's a lot to unpack there, but I'm just going to go back to this. The U.S. men's national team, the only way they have a fighting chance is if there are 22 players on the roster that are fighters.
Yeah.
That is the only way they have a chance. Because there is not a single player on American soil that could measure up against the top teams in the world, game in and game out, and win on talent alone. Yep. And so I don't care what coach you put in there. You could have, father, of the year, in AYSO with the best players on earth. And they would probably still find a way to win. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Yeah. The coach, to be fair, the coach. I look at it.
It's more about managing people.
Well, yeah, but again, you're talking about, if we put this in perspective, right? Like the perspective, winning an NBA championship, you're playing with the same core players for 9 months a year, right?
Yeah.
And again, moving pieces, but for the most part in the NBA, you don't send your best player. Your best players typically stay in unless you're Dallas, right? So, it's like, yeah. It's like they stay there, and then maybe at the end of the season, free agency, whatever, things move around. But typically in season, your core is pretty there, and unless you're like there's a fire sale. In the MLS, same thing. You're playing in your same core group of players all together for 9 months a year, just together. And in this international land, you're not together 9 months a year. You're together for 3 weeks here, 4 weeks there. And to be fair, you're bringing in players all the time. It's like a constant tryout. It's like a constant cycle of players. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really hard to create continuity, cohesiveness, all this stuff. So what do you need? What's the recipe? I'm going to tell the recipe right now. All right, I'm going to tell you from my perspective what the perfect recipe is for the U.S. men's national team. So take notice, America. Okay? You need a goalkeeper who is the loudest and most obnoxious goalkeeper on the planet, who is unbelievably good at what they do, but are so obnoxious that you don't want to be in a room with them. Okay? That's the kind of goalkeeper you want. Okay? Crazy. Good crazy, not bad crazy. Like Hope Solo. Good crazy. Good. What she did for the U.S. women's national team, good. It was good. Like, what? Again, a combination of, this great shot stopper, but also a little crazy. And right. I'm a goalkeeper, so I can say that. So I'm a little crazy. It's okay. You need someone who's a little crazy behind the pipes, okay? I don't know. Hockey's probably the same thing. To be sitting in net for, 60 minutes in a game and just have things shot at you like that at 100 miles an hour, you got to be a little nutty. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Let's defensively. You need in your center backs. Your two center backs have to be just as nutty as the goalkeeper, but with a little bit more stability. You know what I mean? Like just a little bit. Okay. Just a little bit, right? They're going to go out there and there's going to be enforcers, right? And all they do is just keep things out of the area, keep it out of the penalty area. Just your whole job is to be cleaning up. It's almost like the old school days of Mighty Ducks, right? Cleaning out the garbage, right? What do you do? Dump the garbage? All they're doing is clearing out the garbage. That's what your center back should be doing back there, right? Obviously with talent, right? I'm not saying you just take a bunch of people who can all they can do is head the balls and just clear them out. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you need to have people who can be enforcers back there. Okay, your left and right back, they have to have the ability to get forward. They have to have the ability to go score goals. So what you should do is go find yourself some forwards you can turn into defenders. That's what you should go do. That should be what you do. To go find your forwards who can go find a way to. That's what you want. Go turn your forwards into defenders. Okay, that's your back line. Your middle of the park. Your center. Again, my thing is if you're playing this, you're either going to go a 3-4-3, right? Is what you're going to go formation wise, or you're going to do a 3-5-2. All right, that's how you're going to defend this thing. All right, and at least that's my perspective next year. They might go. They're probably going to go 4-3-3, but whatever. Maybe 4-4-2. Maybe a 4-1.
What about 4-2-4?
Oh no, yeah, no, that's never going to happen, right? But you need to find players that just like are enforcers and like who are like just fighters. You're not going to win this on finesse, which we're trying to do. We're trying to do this, and I don't understand why. I do understand why, because we're Americans now are so used to watching beautiful soccer across the pond that when they don't see it here, they get like, What is this? What is this garbage? You're playing direct ball? How dare you play direct ball? Why are we playing direct? Because it gives us a chance to win. Why the hell do you care? What does it matter? At the end of the day, we can, as pundits and the media, we can all bitch and complain about the U.S. men's national team did this during the game, but they won. So as long as they win, who the hell gives a shit? Go win games. And so, yes, should the U.S. men's national team win the Gold Cup? Absolutely they should. Absolutely they should. You're in this tournament, you better go win this damn thing. You've won it like 16 times, so go do it again. However many times you want it, go win it again, okay? And set yourself up for next year. But you need to find players who understand that this isn't about yes, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Make a simple pass. Do it effectively, do it efficiently, keep it simple. Move the ball, go positive, play direct. Keep it, hey, short, long, long, right? However they need to do the game plan, right? The X's and O's, to be fair, are meaningless to me at this point in time. What defend what's in front of you, and if you can't see it, go find it. That's how this game is supposed to be played. It's not overly complicated, okay? I know it's not like in real time we have a coach yelling out, hey, play number 4, and everyone starts shifting around like it's in basketball. That's not the kind of game we play. We play what's in front of us. We play what we see. And the only way to beat good teams is to slow them down. So cut out the flow. And how do you do that? Well, you kick the ball out of play, right? You follow them, right? And you compact the field. That's how you slow the game down.
Mm-hmm.
So slow the game down. Keep the players in front of you. Don't dive in. Be smart defensively. So the whole team should be defending this entire summer. Just defend. Learn how to defend properly. Better than you've ever learned to defend before.
Mm-hmm.
And then go out there, because beating teams straight up also. Like, that's why I'm saying 3-5-2, a 3-4-3, a 4-1-4-1. Just variations of that. You go up and you draw Argentina in the group stage. You know what I mean? You go out in the group of death. Can you imagine what the group of death? Argentina, Portugal, Spain. That'd be a terrible group to be in.
Yeah.
How are you going to win that? How are you going to get second to move on to the group stage?
Right.
You going to play those teams straight up with your team?
Right. Not going to work out.
You're not going to play them straight up? That's the part that I think that it's like, well, no, that's giving up. No, Nathan, I think you were there with me you were there for, we talked about this once before, but we were at Troy High for a playoff game. It was one of the first weekends you ever worked with us. We were out there for regional finals and regional semifinals. You worked those games with me, that one of those games that night, and you weren't there the next day when we had the finals. For the finals four, and Athens was playing. I think it was Henry Ford, and they had never. And if they had been there, they'd been before, maybe once or twice. But the coach had trained the team on being very defensive-minded, sitting back and playing the transition game, and the parents were pissed off about it. you could hear them from the stands before they even started. They're like, "Don't listen to your coach." I'm sitting there going, I can't believe they're even saying this, but they're like literally, "Don't do it, guys. Change your game plan. Don't listen to your coach. Don't give up." It's not giving up. It's giving yourself the best chance to win.
Yeah.
Because the goal is to win. Mm-hmm. And so finding gritty players, finding players who understand how to play that kind of game is all the difference. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about this, it's not to be say that we don't have talented players, because we have very talented players, and the players today are way more talented than they were when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But we're still nowhere near the level of talent across the world. And because of that, we have to do things differently. And trying to be an England, trying to be a Portugal, trying to be a Spain or a Brazil, it's not going to work for us. Mm-hmm. And so what we have to do is we have to go, okay, well, what's the best thing that's going to give us a chance to win? Having a nutty goalkeeper in back of the goal who can scream and be loud and be a little nutty. You know what I mean? That's a good recipe for a fantastic goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. I had yet to come across a goalkeeper in my life that didn't have a little bit of craziness in them, and I mean, again, to sit back in goal for 90 minutes and be by yourself and only be called upon a handful of times in a game to actually do something meaningful it's a talent in itself.
Yeah.
It's a talent in itself. Mm-hmm. And so finding a player like that, finding dominators and enforcers who can be in your back line, you want people to be afraid to come into the box. Like legit. Like you want players to go, "Oh, I got to face that guy today. I'm going to take an elbow to the face." Like, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. Lionel Messi does not want to get an elbow to the face. Mm-hmm. Suarez will bite you if you hit him with an elbow.
Right.
Right. He'll do, like, we know these things. Well, why? Because they don't want to get hit. Go out there and hit people. In a legal way, but go out there and be an enforcer. Mm-hmm. Make them so scared to come near you that they'll do everything they can to stay away from you. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of player we want back there. And you might say that doesn't sound like it's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you want. And if you take the playbook out of the 1980 the men's national hockey team, right? What were they doing? They were just pummeling people. If you watch that game, I mean, they're just putting people on the ice, man. It's like a massacre out there. They're just hitting people. Mm-hmm. They're getting physical, and the Russians just weren't used to it. They weren't just used to them getting attacked, but they got attacked. We have to be that same way. We have to be the same way every single time we play. Moving forward, find players that can do that. And if we do that, that gives us a fighting chance. If we try to go the finesse route and try to go, let's pass, 80% passing and possessing the ball and all that kind of stuff, we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose a lot more than we win, like we have been doing. And we're gonna be sitting here in a year from now going, man, that was a disappointment. Even though we kind of knew it was we knew it was coming. We know it's coming. So if you don't change his mindset, which again, Pochettino's not going to do that. He's too proud. He's been doing this for a long time, and that's the one thing I don't like about coaches who've been around for a long time is that they come in, they think they know everything, and because of that, you know what happens? No one can tell them that they're wrong. Right? Nobody can tell them that what they're doing isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. No, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 30 years. You see my resume? Win, championship. No, that's how that works. No one's going to tell him that he's wrong, and I'm saying deservingly so. You've won. You've been successful basically everywhere you've ever been.
Yep.
But what does that mean for us in the U.S. men's national team? What does that mean for us? It means we're going to be the exact same place we were 4 years ago, 3 years ago, the same place we've always been. Leaving the tournament early on our own homeland. Unless we're playing this like we're not going to show the world what we're working on. Like we have a secret lab someplace where all these players are kind of hiding right now and they're being like,
Now you got to figure it out. Now you figured it out.
It's like this secret lab of U.S. men's national team players currently being cultivated somewhere in Kansas, in the mountains someplace, of Montana. And they're like, they're in some interior dome 900 feet underground and they're like practicing as we speak. They're on the, like Rocky style. They got the mask on training, on the treadmill. They're all,
of course, right? You got it.
Like I said, unless there's some big secret sauce that we're not aware of, looks to me like we're kind of like business as usual. So,
Yeah.
and hopefully we're wrong. I mean, no one's going to listen to what we have to say, but I'm telling you, enforcers in the back line, having someone in the middle of the park as a center midfielder who, again, we get stuck on the sexiness of what a 10 is, attacking center mid. We get like, oh my God, look at that attacking center mid. Attacking center mid has to be the quote unquote point guard of your attack.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Has to be a point
Yeah.
guard of what you do, and they will drop, they will get high, they'll get wide, they'll get low. I mean, there'll be a lot of different things. Who's our point guard? Who are we going to put in the middle of the park? Michael Bradley. As much as people didn't like Michael Bradley, he did a really good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
He did a really good job while he was playing for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
He did a really good job of dropping down, being a good. Yeah, did he make mistakes? Of course he did. But I don't doubt for 1 second that he wanted to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt for 1 second that he was going to go in hard and fight hard for a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Never. And yeah, he made his mistakes. He's human. But I felt like he was probably one of the better midfielders we've had in our history.
Yeah.
And so it's just, again, we just have to change our mentality. If we can do that, I do believe in how we work in the United States.
They need to embrace it. They need to embrace it because there is a lot of power. And you being a head coach in the past, you understand this. Really, any coach, if you don't utilize this component to your advantage when you're coaching, then you're missing out on a real opportunity. But it has to be an us versus the world mentality for this team. There's no other way of going about winning this thing. There's no other way of going about proving where you are in terms of the conversation on an international level, because that's really what it all comes down to is you're playing for more than just a Gold Cup. It's weird to say you're playing for more than a World Cup because a World Cup is everything. But you're playing to change the mentality and the opinions and the way people view soccer players in the United States. Like that is the pressure that you're dealing with. And I realize, like, when you're young, you don't think about those things. And like maybe there's some benefit to, I guess, the ignorance in that way, because they're not thinking about it that way. A lot of these young guys aren't thinking about it that way. They're just thinking about going out and winning a soccer game. But to the people who are maybe a few years further ahead, we understand the importance of what this means. It means putting America on the map more than just yourself, more than just this team, more than, it's the country. Like that's the importance of it. And so for this team, part of that, half the battle is embracing exactly what you just said. Half the battle is embracing the way the world looks at this team, the way the world looks at this squad. Like, I'll be honest with you, JT, I think half of the social media presence that we've built talking about the United States men's national team comes from a place of people don't like it when we talk optimistic about this team. They don't like it when we talk about the importance of marketing American players. They're all like, "Oh, stick to the sports you're good at." Blah, blah, blah. They'll get on our case because we have haters, because they don't want to see the United States good at soccer. They're like, "Well, stay in that low man's place. You don't need to be one of the best." So this team needs to take all that into account, and these young guys need to learn how to embrace that pressure. And again, through the 3 matches they've played, they've done that. And I have to give them a little bit of credit because they responded to those 4 straight losses wonderfully. And the issue in my mind is this: like, we were losing with Christian Pulisic on the team. We lost to Panama, lost to Canada. We didn't look good. And now we have this young group of guys who I think in a lot of ways, again, to your point, is actually kind of embracing that mentality, and they're going out and winning games. And again, to your point, it doesn't matter how you win the games. All it matters is that you win the games. And giving up 1 goal in 3 matches is a pretty good place to start. And maybe that is what they're doing. Maybe they are getting better at defending. I thought, again, I don't know how insufferable of a person he is, but Matt Freese looked really good. Like, there is tangible evidence that this team is figuring out what they need to do to win games. Now, can they beat one of the international powers? Again, anything can happen when you're just talking about one match, right? Anything can happen when you're just talking about just one game. But that's not a sure thing, but what they've done in those 3 games that they have played, and again, I'll be interested to see how it goes down against Costa Rica, is at the very least, I feel like they've embraced exactly what the media has put on their shoulders. Whether that be former players, whether that be us, and they've embraced that and they've rolled with it. So there's a lot of exciting stuff, man, and there's a lot of things to pay attention to. And I just I like keeping track of this team because obviously, we got the World Cup coming up, and it'll be really interesting to see exactly who they keep around from these teams when it comes down to the end of the line. But yeah, there's a lot to be decided still yet. But even if it takes the young, inexperienced group meshing together in the way that they are right now and going out and just fighting out wins, I'll take it any way we can get it.
I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. That is a wrap here on episode number 108 here on this Wednesday, the June 25th. We appreciate you stopping by wherever you're watching, either live or after the fact. We do appreciate your viewership. Like us and share this with your friends and family. We are going to be obviously also available on all listening platforms here later this afternoon. But that is a wrap. We'll get back into this conversation. We'll talk more soccer here tomorrow morning. The question was, we led this off this morning as we kind of mumbled around the crumbs of the world. But what are good crumbs? It's a good question to ask. I'm curious, what are the good crumbs when you start thinking about the food that's left over on your plate at the end of a meal, and are they worth actually eating? We talk about food quite a bit now on this network, and why not continue that conversation? What are the good crumbs? What are they? Is it, that pizza bite that's left over on the plate? My son will refuse to eat the crust, by the way. I don't quite understand that. I don't know I think that might be considered a crime when it comes to food. You can't not eat the crust for pizza. I don't know. He doesn't eat the crust. He just eats all the pizza and then leaves the crust behind. It just does not make any sense to me.
Nathan,
I think it's criminal. It might be criminal, but we'll have to find that out.
Can't believe we share a first name. That's so disappointing.
It's like, what is going on? Anyways, but yes, that is a wrap here on this Wednesday morning. Let's see if I can get the music here to work here this morning. Did I freeze up?
Oh, you're good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sound great, actually.
Well, all right. There we go. Well, there we go. Well, hey, that is a wrap here on episode number 108. Back tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game.